March 21st, 2024. The time is 7 o'clock p.m., and we will call this a regularly scheduled council meeting to order. First, we will have the invocation, and as I don't see that we have anybody here in the crowd to do so, I will lead the invocation, and then the American Pledge will be led by Keko Moore, and the Texas Pledge by none other than Richard Garvey. Please rise. You're welcome. Bow your heads, please. Heavenly Father, we first want to just give you all the praise and glory for allowing us to convene today. Father, thank you for giving us the right to live in a free state and in one of the best cities in America. And I just pray that as we deliver over all of the things today, that you be with this council, that you give us the strength and discernment that we need to make all the right and best choices, Father God. Thank you for each and every person that's represented in this room tonight. We just want to say thank you for our first responders, and we ask a special blessing on them as you keep them safe as they're away from their families, Father God, and keep us all safe as we go home this evening. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to you, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
Thank you, Councilman. We have no public comment this evening, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. Councilman Garvey, is there anything you'd like to remove from the consent agenda?
No, Mayor.
No, Mayor.
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Nothing.
Nothing? Okay. Entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Please vote.
Motion approves unanimously. Items approved on the consent agenda are the minutes from March 7th City Council Workshop, the minutes from March 7th City Council Meeting. Item C, proclaim the month of April 2024 as Fair Housing Month in the city of Alvin, Texas. Item D, consider awarding request for proposal 2401 to Data Pros for bill printing and mailing services for the utility billing department, and authorize city manager to sign the agreement upon legal review. Item E, consider resolution 24R13 adopting rules and regulations for the Bob S. Owen Pool and Facilities located at 919 Bayou Drive, Alvin, Texas, aligning said rules and regulations with those of the Alvin Recreation Center pool for uniformity, and setting forth other matters related thereto. Item F, consider resolution 24R15 suspending the April 10, 2024 effective date of CenterPoint Energy Houston Electric LLC's requested rate change to permit the city time to study the request and to establish reasonable rates, approving continued cooperation with the Gulf Coast Coalition of Cities, hiring Lloyd Gosling attorneys and consulting services to negotiate with the company and direct any necessary litigation and appeals, requiring reimbursement of city's rate expenses, finding that the meeting at which this resolution is passed is open to the public as required by law, requiring notice of this resolution to the company and legal counsel for Gulf Coast Coalition of Cities. Mayor?
Thank you, Dixie. Moving on to other business, item A, consider resolution 24R16 accepting the petition for annexation of an 18.23 acre tract of land and a 0.44 acre tract of land, both located along State Highway 6 in Brazoria County, Texas, setting an annexation schedule, setting public hearings, providing for open meetings, and providing for other matters related thereto. Suzanne?
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. Back on February 20th, the city received a petition for annexation from the Alvin School District to annex property that's located adjacent to or part of their transportation center that's off of Highway 6 there. I guess they were getting ready to look at constructing some new buildings and realized, or maybe they knew, but not all of that property is within city limits. So this will clean it up, put all of that property within city limits. We're already providing services to them, to that area anyway, so that's not any additional cost to the city. It'll just clean up their property for them. This resolution will set the two required public hearings for May 2nd and May 16th of this year. And then the ordinance is, I believe we have the ordinance set the first meeting in June to be approved. Any questions?
No questions or comments? I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve Resolution 24R16
accepting the petition for annexation of an 18.23 acre tract of land and a .44 acre tract of land, both located along State Highway 6 in Brazoria County, Texas, setting an annexation schedule, setting public hearings, providing for open meetings, and providing for other matters related thereto.
Thank you. Please vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Item B, consider ordinance 24J granting consent to the addition of approximately 42.648 acres of land to the Brazoria County Municipal Utility District Number 81, making findings of fact, providing a severability clause, and providing an effective date.
Yes, Mayor and Council, this is a petition that the city received actually back in 2022. Excuse me, MUD 81, the main parcel of 181 is the Watermark property, and D.R. Horton is developing, I think it's Magnolia Trails, is this, or Georgetown, sorry, this 42.648 acres. When we received the petition, Michelle was working with them on capacity issues and all of that. You'll see in the packet, you'll see some more information as far as what the city and the district have agreed to with respect to providing water, wastewater. And so we're actually finally accepting the petition to annex into the MUD, and then the next one is to the next item on the agenda is to do the second amended utility services contract, which will then incorporate the additional 42 acres. And the attorneys for the district are here if you have any questions. And Michelle is here too, who knows more about it than I do.
Are there any questions?
Okay?
So this is not land that the developer already owns?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so it already belongs to them. It's not like we're
Yes.
just giving them.
No,
Okay.
they're just annexing the land into the MUD that already exists.
Okay. So I have another question, but I
Okay.
guess it relates to the next agenda item, so I can wait.
Okay.
If we wanna have a motion on this one.
Sure. Well, then I'll entertain a motion if there's no more questions.
Mayor, move to approve ordinance sorry, my computer's acting up. Mayor moves to approve ordinance 24J granting consent to the addition of approximately 42.648 acres of land to the Brazoria County Municipal Utility District Number 81, making findings of fact, providing a severability clause, and providing an effective date.
Thank you. Please vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Item C, consider resolution 24R14 approving the second amendment to the utility services contract with Missouri County Municipal Utility District Number 81 and setting forth other provisions related thereto.
So Mayor and Council, now that we've added the additional 42 acres into the MUD, into MUD 81, now we are seeking to amend the utility services agreement that covers the area, which will incorporate the additional 42 acres as well as make modifications to the original utility services agreement, specifically provisions regarding capacity, the improvements and payments for the wastewater capacity, and then improvements and payments for lift stations 27 and 33. Michelle has more information if you have any questions pertaining to the details of that. We included in your agenda packet the first utility services agreement that was done, the first amended one that was done when they added 103 acres into the district, and then this one will be the second. Question? Councilmember?
Just answered my own question.
Okay.
By reading a little further.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Uh-huh.
Just for information, this is the development that's partially in Alvin and in Friendswood,
Yes, sir.
where they decided to do just the small lots in Alvin, everything else was big in Friendswood.
Because
I know, that's the one, right? I don't need explanation for it, I know, okay.
Yeah, it's their minimums, larger lots than ours, Friendswood.
Mayor, move to approve ordinance 24J. Oh, we got the wrong one. Yes, it is. Sorry. Forget about that. Mayor, move to approve resolution 24R14, approving the second amendment to the utility service contract with Brazoria County Municipal Utility District Number 81 and setting forth other provisions related thereto.
Second.
Thank you. Please vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
Excellent. Item D, Consider ordinance 24I, establishing a no parking zone along the portion of West Cleveland Street, authorizing the installation of appropriate signage, providing for a penalty in publication, and making other findings related thereto.
I guess a week or so ago, the owners of 715 West Adu, they're currently turning that building into Promised Land Preschool, and they had requested or inquired about doing a no parking zone immediately behind the two lots that they own, which would be on the north side of West Cleveland Street, approximately between South Johnson and the end of their property, or the width of their property, which is approximately 170 feet. If you'll see in your packet, there are pictures of the current parking situation. You'll see the vehicles, it's a area of that street where there's culverts, so you basically, the whole right-of-way is covered so that people are kind of parking behind the telephone poles and kind of what would be considered kind of up into the property, even though it's right-of-way. So that would essentially stop that by putting a no parking zone there. The daycare was concerned because their playground area is going to be right on the other side of that fence that's shown in the picture. So due to traffic concerns and the fact that they requested it, I think it would be a wise move to do a no parking zone here. I mean, nobody could park here, not even daycare patrons. They'd be at the same standards for the no parking zone. Any questions?
Who's actually parking there? Do we know?
I don't know.
It appears to be high school students.
Most likely due to proximity to the school.
Any questions, comments? Thank you, Michelle, appreciate it.
Sure.
To approve ordinance 24I, establishing a no parking zone along a portion of West Cleveland Street, authorizing the installation of appropriate signage, providing for a penalty in publication, and making other findings related thereto.
Second.
Thank you, please vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, the last item, next item is consider ordinance 24H, amending the City of Alvin Code of Ordinances, Chapter 3, alcoholic beverages for the purpose of adding definitions, revising language, and providing for a variance, providing for severability, providing for a penalty, providing for publication, and providing for other matters related thereto. Suzanne?
Yes, Mayor and Council, at our workshop before our last meeting, we talked about this. I had a presentation for you. We talked about different things. We talked about the location restrictions for residences. We talked about variances. We talked about kind of the highlights to the revisions that have been made and that I have made to Chapter 3, taking all of your comments into consideration. So what you have before you is you have the red line version and then a clean version, so that when we took out all the stuff, it took a while to kind of get all the formatting to fix. I know, Glenn, there was some confusion about what happened with some of the letters, so I think I was able to get all that squared away. And so this, what I did in response to some of the concerns that were raised during the workshop, I removed the provision that provided a 500 feet restriction for locations. We had the big conversation about proving the less than 75%, essentially proving it was a bar as opposed to anything else. So I removed that in its entirety, and I added residences to the first part that talks about location restrictions. And so they all will now be 300 feet. If approved, they will all be 300 feet. The only exception to that would be for public or private schools that request to be an alcohol-free zone. Again, as we discussed, I added a variance provision and copied the items to consider when granting a variance from the alcohol and beverage code. One of the things that came up during our conversations was, did those apply to a residence only? And I will say no, those variances can be for any of the locations, can be for a variance from a church, a school, a hospital, public school, private public school, and a hospital. So there was some discussion about, would it be a variance for residential, from location restriction from residential only? I left it so it follows what state law currently is. with respect to just another couple edits that Councilmember DeKaiser caught. What you have before you is essentially would be the final thing. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have that I haven't answered.
Does the variance apply to the private or public school
Yes.
as well?
Well, in accordance with state law, it does, yes, that you can request a variance for that. One of the things that we didn't talk about, and I didn't put it in because we hadn't talked about it, we did talk about it, but not in terms of adding it to this ordinance, but that the provision where a homeowner or potentially maybe even a school could file a petition. Remember, we talked about that if they had an objection, once it's posted that this place is gonna serve alcohol, that what that is notice to the neighbors that they can file a petition to object to the location. I didn't know if we wanted to add that provision to the ordinance, letting people know that there is a mechanism. I'm not sure how strong of a mechanism, but there is a mechanism to object to a location that is asking for a residency restriction. Yeah, Kiko.
Just for variances, though, not for typical permits. If they're asking for a variance, we would notify them that they've requested a variance?
I think theoretically for any locations that's going up, theoretically, anybody can object to it. Yeah.
You're saying this is a mechanism that's already put in place by state law that is not spelled out in our
Correct.
ordinances, but that you could add for clarification for the public?
Yes,
So, okay.
yes.
But regardless if it's in our ordinances
It's still
or not,
state law.
it's
They still
a
have that
remedy
opportunity.
to the homeowners.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So you said state law allows for variance for the 1,000-foot rule from a school?
Not the 1,000-foot rule. No, that's different. So the alcohol-free zone is different than the 300 feet for a private or public school. For the alcohol-free zone, once council establishes that, I do not believe that there is a variance allowed for that.
So once we establish that, nobody can.
Correct, and that's, yeah, and that is a school-by-school, case-by-case scenario. That doesn't apply to all schools. It's like ASD couldn't come in and file one to apply to every school. It's a per school, and then so, excuse me, no, the variance provisions, when you're reading through the statute, it's churches, public, private schools, and public hospitals. And now residences, because we've added that into that.
I don't agree with the variance that we're putting into this ordinance. I mean, it was all discussed, so I'm just gonna state, I don't agree with the variance. I certainly don't agree with reducing from 500 down to 300 feet, so bars can be in close to residences. Over a period of time, no matter how good a bar is taken care of, they deteriorate, and then there's problems. So anyway, vote how you wish. I'm gonna vote against it.
I had some, I guess, businesses I spoke with and some residences in the area that were not happy with us reducing the distance that it was, because they are not keen on having another bar in the area right there. They already have one by them. I know one business in particular said that they have had to have several conversations with the owner of that business due to the young ladies that work at their place leaving, and gentlemen being outside doing cat calls and whatnot to them as they're leaving. I wouldn't appreciate that if it was my daughter having to deal with something like that, and quite frankly, putting a bar on the other side of them would probably just make it a little bit harder for them to do business there. And I'd hate to force another person to have those kind of issues down there. I would like for us to take this and table it and let us go back and do some more discussion about it and talk with the business owners and residents in that area and see how they feel about that, see if we can get official responses on those, and then bring it back for discussion.
This isn't just for one location. This is a blanket ordinance for the entire city. You're pinpointing one business.
Correct.
I don't, this ordinance, we spent an hour talking about this 2 weeks ago, and the mayor went around to everybody. Obviously, we can't take a vote, but he asked if everybody was okay with it, and every single one of you nodded your head okay.
Well, I've gotten information since, and it's just my mind. So we could take a vote tonight if you want to, but I do have some questions about, I do have some questions about the vote and whether or not certain people on council can vote on those items or not, due to their business affiliations. So, I would rather go back and discuss it firsthand and everything instead of bringing that up now.
Why can't we bring it up now? We're here to talk about it, it's on the agenda.
So, Councilman Garavay works for Faust Distributing, which will be supplying beer to all of these establishments, which his business then is dependent on these people getting in either newer bars or going in and soliciting for business from them. So that's a conflict of interest right there. And Mayor Adami is also the lender on one of the properties that would be directly impacted by this business, by this ordinance.
That's like saying, if we vote on development, you're a realtor, you're gonna have potential customers to build into that development or sell houses in that development. I don't benefit directly from any of these businesses. I don't make commission.
So you don't go in and sell anything to them?
I don't make commission, it's just my job.
Right, it's your job.
Hold
to
on,
go
I
in
have
and
a
do that.
question though. Do you know for a fact that he has some type of prior business relationship with this particular business? Like a contract for sale of beer to this
No.
particular? Okay,
But
so,
but we're talking about all businesses inside of Alvin.
So if it's 300 foot or 500 foot, how would that affect his business?
I don't want to reduce the amount of the distance on it.
So you think reducing it 200 feet is gonna really shrink his business interest that much
No,
where he would
it's
care
not
about
gonna,
it?
it's not gonna affect on this establishment, it's not gonna affect anything.
So let me just say, I have already, been asked, we've talked at length about that. My opinion is that, with respect to Councilmember Garavay, that any economic benefit, is not, there's not a direct economic benefit to it. If we were considering a ordinance to sell alcoholic beverages in Alvin for the first time ever, then I would say differently, because he could potentially have, the direct income, because it's not about commission, it's the fact that you still have a job, so your company is benefiting. But because,
But I don't own the company.
no, I know, that part actually, we don't need to argue about that, cause I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing with you, that I think it's not tenuous, I mean, it's definitely there, but I think the mere fact that there is an ordinance that is, the only real thing that it's doing is changing location restrictions for residences only, which will affect just, for right now, we know one location. And so that, I don't think that there's enough of, I don't feel like that there's enough of a conflict overall with an ordinance. I will say that the onus is on each individual council member to determine whether or not they believe they have, I mean, I could advise all day long, but it's up to each individual member to determine whether or not they believe they have a conflict of interest. I can't force anyone to sign that. With respect to Mayor Adame, I think that's a little bit more, obviously you would only vote in the instance of a tie, but because there is some direct economic relationship there, I will say, potential economic relationship there, which has been disclosed openly in meetings with us, that may lend itself to more of a potential for a conflict of interest. It doesn't mean that the fact, you made a good point, that, just because there's a development, that we approve a development agreement and now real estate agents can't go do their business, or there's a lawsuit that comes from that and somehow Megan gets, or Councilmember DeKaiser gets hired to do something. It doesn't, obviously that's not what the conflict of interests are they're not supposed to make you not be able to do your business. It's just looking for kind of those more direct conflicts, which we've had there have been in the past. I think Mayor Dame's relationship in this particular instance that we're not talking about, the elephant in the room, is potentially more of one than, because the potential is always there for a conflict.
But he's not voting for that specific variance of some sort. He's voting for the rule
Well,
in
but
the ordinance,
sure,
period. And if
sure.
that happens to be an effect of it, that's an effect of it, but he's not choosing, he's not
That's-
specifically choosing it for that reason.
That's true, although the only caveat to that is that we know why we're requesting a variance.
Yeah,
It unearthed
So-
it.
reason why we're requesting.
Right.
It unearthed it.
Right.
Like it,
So, I
that
mean,
was,
but it's,
We're
I'm
voting
not-
on variance. We're voting
Right,
on an
we're not voting.
Sure.
ordinance.
Sure,
we're voting on an ordinance,
Yes.
but we're gonna put in a variance requestability on it,
You-
which,
just ask my opinion.
I know,
you-
which isn't really a problem with me. What I have a problem with is reducing the distance on it.
You talked about the other bar that's already there, and so even if we approve this and we say we're gonna reduce the distance, the existing bar that's already there, that's already giving cat calls to the girls walking out of work, is still gonna be there. And so it's not gonna eliminate the problem by,
No, but now we're reducing the amount of space that can be put in there. We've already determined that there's only a 25%, non-alcoholic sales has to be for just a bar. So what's to say another one can't go in on that?
We've eliminated that entirely from the ordinance.
So, but we don't, for them to get a beer license, they have to have, 75%? Remind me on how it works. 75%?
she eliminated the 75%.
So what we,
none of that would change it because they're coming out of a business. They're not coming out of a residence. So another bar opening 500 foot away or 300 foot away could be by another business. And if the boogeyman cat calling happens, it could be there too. It wouldn't stop that from happening. It's not a resident-specific item. It's a business.
You're pinpointing one individual business, because that's the issue you're raising, because of a business you spoke to is having issues with an existing bar. And that existing bar is having those issues.
Well, they're not
and
interested
you're-
in having an additional bar.
Yeah, exactly. You're talking about a business, though. We're not reducing anything about the business. The business has already been 300. We're adding the residential to the 300 list, so
But this bar
that's
wouldn't go
irrelevant.
in if we didn't reduce the residential
Doesn't
300.
matter. What you're complaining about, you're talking about a complaint from a business.
Right.
The business, that's not even it's still gonna be there.
Then what's the deal? I don't
I
see
know,
where
that's
there's a
what I'm asking,
problem.
what's the deal? There's no deal, because
Then
you're
what's the
complaining
problem? Why are we
about,
reducing it?
I thought we were going from,
we're
why
going
aren't we
from
reducing it if
500
it's not
to
a problem?
300 on residences.
Correct.
He's talking
We're
about a
reducing it.
business that's
I'll tell you
complaining.
why we're reducing it, because we can't quantify percentages of alcohol. We are guessing, is what we talked about in the workshop. We don't want to start policing these amounts, and whether they're 75% or 75%. We just suggested, and everybody agreed in the workshop, that we should just make them all the same baseline distance, because it's not somehow gonna, change the outcome if you reduce it 200 foot, and then have to manage those numbers. It's gonna be a task that we can't do fairly.
and our city doesn't have zoning, makes it harder for businesses to operate. I mean, it would make it more difficult for them to operate with a larger distance requirement, you know what I mean? So the way that our city is set up, it's not really ideal for an extra large distance requirement. So that's one of the reasons why we talked about it in the workshop 2 weeks ago at length.
to that point, we only talked about it for 45 minutes, and 45 minutes to an hour. It was a workshop. And we got this ordinance in 3 days to look at it. And I hear everybody's argument and stuff about that, and I understand. But I was also here for when this originally came in, that the previous council that worked on this ordinance 10+ years ago had several months to work on it. My personal opinion is, I don't want to rush into something and make a decision on an ordinance in 1 hour workshop and a 30-minute discussion tonight and vote on something that's going to affect something that's going to happen for the next 10 years. And I agree with your argument. We don't have zoning, and we don't have specific safeguards for existing businesses and existing residents that are here and well-established in Alvin. Future stuff, new stuff coming in, they're going to benefit from this. But the stuff that's here that's already established,
I would personally want to be a little bit more cautious and analyze this a little bit more than the 3 days that I got from this draft that's been published to us.
You're saying businesses?
Businesses and residences that are affected by this.
Well, how would
It doesn't
business
matter
be
if it's
affected?
affected
They're gonna get
or
less
if it's a
competition
benefit.
200 feet away? How
I
much-
know, and I agree with that. What's the difference between 300 and 500?
we're
It's
just
not,
splitting
it's just
hairs.
those little hop, skip, and a jump, but.
Exactly.
Yeah, but why didn't you bring this up in the workshop? You were all
Well,
for
we
it in the
kind of did. I
workshop.
was there, and it kind of did. There's a lot of stuff that
Takes a
goes
while to
on
change
in
it.
an hour. Hour goes by pretty quick.
Yeah, but we spent 90% of the time on that exact subject.
I know we
The
did. I was
restaurant
digesting. And I
deal
was
and-
digesting it. And
But
I
either
was-
way, I mean, you're allowed to change your mind. I'm just saying, I don't see how that changes anything. And the issue brought up doesn't change anything because the business is still gonna exist. That bar that's the bad bar is still gonna exist. All those elements are still gonna exist. And if you push that bar 200 feet away, it doesn't save the boogeyman cat calling on that side. Like it's
But I
still,
mean,
it doesn't do anything.
It doesn't help it either by
But it
giving
doesn't.
it 200
You're just
feet
relocating
extra.
the problem then, is all you're saying. You'd rather be 200 foot away from where it is.
Okay, so if, for instance, that location, if you were 200 feet farther away from it, where would you go?
So that location specifically is what you're concerned about.
No, well, that
Oh.
is the one I got the complaints about, but
But
yes,
I'm not
I am
concerned about it. I'm concerned about
specifically
equal
concerned about it.
treatment in the law.
That's fine.
All right, well, let's,
we do a vote or whatever,
let's go ahead and move forward. I mean, you guys
Can-
are talking a lot, but
Can
none
I
of
just-
you are making any sense, so.
Can I correct something that I said before?
Except for you, you make a lot of sense.
Can I correct something that I said before? You would not be conflicted out on voting on the ordinance itself. You might be conflicted out voting on a variance.
Absolutely. I agree
Okay,
with that.
so I apologize for
you're
misspeaking
fine.
on that. Trying to think off the cuff.
Well, I'll entertain a motion from somebody.
Mayor, I move to approve ordinance 24H, amending the City of Alvin Code of Ordinances, Chapter 3, alcoholic beverages, for the purpose of adding definitions, revising language, and providing for a variance, providing for severability, providing for a penalty, providing for publication, and providing for other matters related thereto.
Second.
Please vote.
Tiebreaker required, Mayor. Motion passes. Councilmember Vaughn and Starkey voting no.
Thank you. Item F, consider if any requests from individual council members.
None, sir.
No, Mayor. No, sir.
No, Mayor.
Thank you. Items of community, report from city manager.
Yes, Mayor and Council, free pet adoptions every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in March at the Alvin Animal Adoption Center from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. March 28th, all non-emergency city offices will be closed for Good Friday. Also on March 28th at 8 p.m. is the Lights Out Easter egg hunt for ages up to 12 years old at Briscoe Park. And immediately following at 8:30 p.m., the teen Easter egg hunt for ages 13 to 17 years old. Briscoe Park is closed to the public this weekend for Alvin Music Festival. And lastly, early voting begins on April 22nd through April 30th for the special May 4th charter election. Voters can cast their ballots at any voting location in Brazoria County. Contact the city secretary's office for more information. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Next, items of community interest. Councilman Starkey?
I want to thank the Alvin Museum Society for the fundraiser that they did for the VFW. They collected over $4,000, and they had numerous citizens come. Mayor was there, color guard, VFW commander spoke, and I was there. So it was good. This is to benefit their restoration. And I want to thank Ricky Kabechka, Jody Scheibe, and Ineos for cooking chili and bringing it and selling it as a benefit. So like I said, they made over $4,000. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you.
I don't have anything.
Whose chili did you like best?
You know, I didn't get to test all three.
You didn't?
I just got the first one that they gave me. It was Ineos, I think.
Yes, yeah.
It was good.
They all did a great job, but yeah, that was a winner in my book. Thanks for bringing that up. That was a great event. If you haven't been over to the Museum Society, stop on by. I know they're actually changing the exhibits now to Legoland, if I'm not mistaken. And that'll be, I think they're celebrating the 25th anniversary of when Lego sent out their first little kit that you put together. So if you have anybody in the family that loves Legos, go to the museum and check it out. And the best part is it's free. That's all I've got.
Nothing, Mayor.
No, sir.
I just want to know when the adult Easter egg is supposed to happen. Dan, adult Easter egg?
It's at 9. 9 is
Directly after the tea.
Is it really?
It is, and it's sold out.
Okay, good, because I was like, oh, I was going to pull a hamstring or something. Oh, I already spoke and now I'm at the show up. No. Just, again, Alvin Music Festival this weekend. Make sure you don't wear good shoes. We've got a lot of rain today, but we're going to have a good time. And that's it, Mayor.
Thank you. Well, thank you all. Thank you for being here. And with that, we're adjourned.